Welcome to the UK's first metal detection podcast. It's All Metal Mode UK with your host from across the pond, Mr. Michael Hare.
Hey everybody, this is Mike here, and you're listening to the All Metal Mode UK podcast. And boy, I'm excited for this because I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about the Ncmd. Although I have heard some, being an American, I have to apologize. So I hear great things though, so I'm looking forward to this. Hey Dave, how's it going? Oh, hold on, I don't have Dave. You there, Dave?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. There we go. That scared me for a second.
Here I am.
All right.
Well, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. It was my birthday, and it was nice, relaxing, spending it with the kids and stuff. And I kept using that it was my birthday, and I don't want to deal with kids, so you deal with them yesterday.
I appreciate, Mike, but one thing, right? Can we not discuss it? Because when I find out that you're younger than me, it just takes the shine off my everything, really. I feel old now.
Well, the old gray beard makes me look much older than I am, I think. But I was saying something.
Well, don't shave it off because it's you.
2 days ago, I don't drink very often, but I do like a drink now and then, and the place where you can actually get liquor's a decent drive from us, so we usually don't have liquor in the house. And we went to go to the liquor store, and we're heading there, and I said, "Oh man, I don't have my my ID with me." And not that I look young or anything, but a lot of times they'll card you even if you're old and stuff. And she goes, "I'm pretty sure that if you look under 40, they'll card you." And she goes, "Mike, you haven't looked like you're under 40 in a lot of years." So, yeah, that's how she treats me right there.
Would you have it any other way?
Nah, I love it. We give each other a hard time.
Don't all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
So good evening to all the listeners, first of all. Hope you are all well this evening. And we have a big guest tonight, one I'm very, as well as Mike's excited for, I'm excited for because it's we're discussing with one of the representatives from the National Council for Metal Detecting the history and other bits and bobs about it. And obviously there's a lot of things that we as members in the UK don't see what takes place in the background, and it would be nice to learn a lot more and to be able to understand that it's not just about being insured, but a hell of a lot more. And we're going to learn about the history and lots of other things with our guest tonight, John Wells. So good evening, John. How are you?
Good evening, David. Mike, how are you? All right?
I am great.
Marvellous.
Good.
So, Mike, would you like to kick off?
I sure could.
I don't mean have an argument, by the way.
You don't have what?
I said, yeah, would you like to kick off? I don't mean have an argument, by the way. Kick off in England. Have a fight.
Are you giving me a hard time because our little discussion right before we went live? Is that what you're saying? Giving me a hard time?
Certainly are. It's great, John. You'll learn a lot. Mike doesn't know a lot of our idiosyncrasies, and he's like, what are you on about? He doesn't understand some of our terminology, so sometimes I have to stop and tell him.
I see.
I'm learning a lot, though, John. I really am. So how'd you get started in metal detecting?
Well, it started actually with an American company. When they took over from Roots in Coventry, and I used to sit and have lunch with a guy called John Barton. Now, John was a very, very nice guy, very softly spoken, and we used to get talking about hobbies and what have you. And at the time, I played football probably 3 times a week. I was very, very fit then. And he told me he went metal detecting. And I said, "Well, what's that? What's that involved with?" And he says, "Well, every time I go out and follow the plough, I'm allowed to go and follow the plough, and as the plough turns over the land, I find lots and lots of Roman coins. Well, I was fascinated. I thought, wow, this is great. So the more I sat with him, the more lunches I had with him, the more I became interested. I said to him one day, is there any chance you could take me out? He said, yeah, sure. I said, we'll go out this Saturday. And we went to a local park, a very old park, where, in fact, troops had been billeted before the Boer War. And when we went out there, we were finding Victorian half-crowns, sixpences, shillings, pennies, and they were coming out by the bucketful. Oh. And I thought, this is great. I've got to have a go at this. But of course, it was a time when I'd got 2 young sons and a mortgage, and I'd got no money. So I thought, had a word with my brother-in-law, who was a bit of a boffin, and I said, "Can we make one of these?" And he said, well, we could have a go. And there was an instruction kit in Practical Wireless, which is an old magazine which is still going around today. Anyway, we assembled all the bits and pieces and we tried to make this machine. Well, one of the hardest parts about any machine, which I later discovered when I went to visit how they make metal detectors, is the head. And getting the head to position correctly with the two coils mating up with each other and then positioning them with polyurethane foam. If you don't get that right, there's so much scrappage in detecting heads that you wouldn't believe it. Well, we managed to get this thing to work, but if you moved it quite quickly over grass or over sand, the deflection in the actual head would mean to get no signals at all. It wouldn't pick a dustbin lid up at 2 inches. That's how bad it was. So that didn't last very long. But I persuaded my wife that this is the way to go forward. This is where our riches lay. So we cobbled together the money, and we bought, my very first machine was a C-scope induction balance machine back in the early 70s. And it was great. It was lovely. I was finding all sorts of bits and pieces, nothing spectacular. But I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. And so therefore, I thought, okay, if I'm hooked, how many other people around me are hooked? So I put an advert in the local paper, and I said, anybody interested in metal detecting, come and join me at a meeting place in the Coventry City Centre. Well, I was amazed. So many people turned up. Most of them didn't have machines, didn't have detectors. But what they did have was lots of enthusiasm. And they were giving me money for subscriptions. They weren't even detectorists. They weren't even owning a machine. And some of them never turned up yet ever again. But here we got the beginnings of a club called the Three Spires Club. And we were happily going out, enjoying each other's company, going on various places, only to discover there were other clubs in the area. And that, we kept away from them and they kept away from us. But what brought us together was the fact that Coventry, where I live, this other club, the Arley Club, had gone to a recreation ground owned by the Coventry City Council, and they'd been turfed off by the local park keepers. And they took umbrage at this, and they contacted me and they said, do you think this is a good idea, John? I said, well, no. I said, we ought to do something about it. So we got a petition up. But before we actually got to present the petition, we said to the council, you've got opportunities for skateboarders, you've got opportunities for walkers, you ought to be giving us some facilities. And they relented, and they gave us map upon map of land that belonged to them and permission to go on this land, as long as we had insurance. So that's how the Midlands Federation was formed. No, we say the Midlands Federation. We were just an accumulation of clubs which didn't know that anybody else existed in the entire world. But we kept ourselves to ourselves, went on on our various club sites and farms, and met together socially, occasionally, and that's how I got into it.
That's fantastic. So that was in the early 70s, and obviously Three Spires still continues today. Obviously.
No, the Three Spires that you're talking about now is now a Lichfield club.
Right.
And so the Three Spires then became the Coventry Heritage Detector Society, of which I am now the chairman, and my daughter is sitting next to me as my treasurer. My secretary. And we sort of like grew out of one club into another. And at one time there was 17 clubs in the Midlands Federation. They used to come along to meetings and quizzes and exhibitions and lectures. And we got on great. And then we found out there was a bigger organisation which had been formed from the National Council, which they called themselves the National Council at the time, but there were only two federations, and that was the Northwestern Federation and also the Southern Federation. Mm-hmm. And these have been brought together by a group called DIG, which was the Detector Information Group. Now, these guys were very, very clever guys, and they really were the backbone of the hobby back in those days, fighting the good fight. Three guys who really were actually doing a great service for us, and we didn't really know about it. Their names were Frank Mellish, Tony Hammond, and Jeff Fry. We've a lot to be thankful for because they fought the good fight before the rest of us got involved. And as I say, we got together, and with the Northwestern region and the Southern region, we became the National Council of Metal Detecting. And we had our very first meeting. Back in I think it was 1982. I think it was in the Midlands. And when we met, we got a lot of enthusiasm, but we haven't got much money. In fact, when we met, we got about £35 in the kitty. And because we were fighting the good fight, and we thought we'd have to employ the use of Queen's counsellors and barristers, 35 quid ain't going to go very far. That's about pays for their tea. So it was thinking, well, we really need to get organised here, and we did. And I say the Northwestern Federation, a guy called Brian Cross, he was very instrumental in bringing the whole thing together. So Brian Cross was shooting around the country in his little red rooster, a camper van, enlisting all clubs, getting people worked up and informed about what was going on. And of course, we were a reactionary outfit from the very start, because we were reacting to people wanting to try and ban us or get us out of existence. And that more or less was our raison d'etre, if you like. And it was the fact that we had to fight, and we were, as I say, reacting all the time. But as a reactionary group, we were quite good because we fought the good fight, and we fought every battle that came at us. And as I say, we grew bigger and bigger. We were joined by the southwestern region, the northeastern region, the Anglian region, and the Scottish region, and at one point the Welsh region, but they only sent one delegate, and he never turned up again. So therefore, it was something that was born out of the fact that we wanted to protect the hobby. And being English and being bloody minded, we thought, well, hang on a minute, this is a very harmless, very, very good hobby. So why should we be blown out of existence? It was wrong. It was all wrong. And of course, we had groups like the Council for British Archaeology, who, in cahoots with an organisation called the Surrey Archaeological Society, formed the Stop campaign, which really was stop taking our past, and they were determined that we should go out of existence. Well, we actually fought very hard against them, and DIG, who was our mentors at the time, organised a rally of supporters in Parliament Square. In December 1979, over 1,000 detectorists from all over the country went to Parliament Square and followed by a march down Downing Street. And they were successful in July that year with its petition to the House of Lords against Clause 100 of the County of Kent Bill, which was an attempt to restrict the hobby in the country. So, but when the Stop campaign really took off, that was when we really came into our own. We did everything we could to stop this anti-detecting campaign, and we made the actual CBA and the Stop campaign look really foolish, because we appealed to the people's, well, the citizens of this country, and said, why would a big organisations like this, funded by the government, want to do us down? And to which point we won the case. We won the sympathy of the country, and unfortunately, people like the CBA and the Stop campaign had a loss of sympathy, and the polarisation of attitudes really went in our favour. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, at one point, we even made the Labour Prime Minister Harold Wilson an honorary patron of the Ncmd, which he accepted willingly. Good old Harold.
So what year abouts was the NCMD formed in its current guise?
Oh well, when you had all the different all the different federations coming together, it was around about 1982, 83. When they all finally got together, sit in a room. But those early days, as I say, when we first had our first delegates meetings, we would meet in the Arley Miners Welfare Club, which was, if you know, it was a well-known coal mining area, and we'd got the use of this room when the bingo was on in the other room. And we had our meetings, and it was I'll never forget, it was a freezing cold place. And two of my members used to come in before they went detecting on a Sunday morning, used to open the place up, put on the tea urn, and then go off detecting, and come back at 4 o'clock, put on the tea urn again, give us all a cup of tea, and we'd go home. We used to spend about 6 hours debating how to move the hobby forward. And in this freezing cold room, with no money, we used to bring our own sandwiches, by the way. But of course, all that's changed now. We are now very well organised. We have 16,000 members. We have money in the bank. We have an organisation now that's not only well respected, but actually we're referred to and consulted on anything to do with detecting and the hobby itself. And of course, the things that we do, things that we have done in the past. Like when the government was to bring out the changes to the ancient laws of treasure trove, which obviously, I don't know if you know, Dave, but those ancient laws of treasure trove, they suited the detectorists superbly. In fact, the detectorists didn't want those laws changed because the status quo suited us perfectly. As you know, something that was found back in those days would go before a coroner. And a coroner didn't know one end of a machine from the other. And he would have to decide whether an object was either lost, never to be found again, or secreted to be recovered. Now, when you've got an object that's, 500, 600, 700 years old, he's going to have to take a real wild shot at that. So most stuff ended back with the detectorist. But of course, a lot of stuff went by without archaeologists or museums seeing them. And therefore, it was a loss. And we felt, those people who were responsible felt, there was a loss to the nation. And it's something that we could not actually justify fully. So we had to get into negotiations with the archaeologists, with the government. And I led the team of guys that went down to meet with various representatives. One of them being Lord Perth, a lovely, lovely old man, who I had many a debate with him about the reasons why we should not be banned, and he agreed. And he said that if we were willing to take on changes to the Ancient Law Treasure Trove with the Treasure Act, he would ensure that this hobby wouldn't be banned. And because those were our red lines. We said the hobby shouldn't be banned, and that our members should get a fair crack of the whip when it came to valuation of treasure.
Yeah.
So both of those have been achieved with the Portable Antiquity Scheme and the Treasure Act being enacted in 1996. And since then, we've gone from strength to strength. We are now the reason why the Portable Antiquity Scheme is so successful. In fact, it's probably become too successful because we've got a situation whereby we've got that much stuff going into museums and to and through the fines liaison officers that, God bless them, they can't cope.
Yeah.
And
obviously, things are changing within that it's themselves, within the Portable Antiquity Scheme, where things like that might come to an end in the future. That might change rapidly itself, the whole concept of the Portable Antiquity Scheme. So, you know, for what work they have done up to now, and which has been fantastic work, we don't know what's that going to be in the future at the moment. Well,
we don't, because as I say, year on year, their funds are being squeezed, and I suspect we're never going to go back to the days of being pressured to give up the hobby or to the hobby to be banned. I think those days are gone. We're a valuable resource, and being such that 99.9% of our members really do believe in the history of this nation, and they really do not mind having it recorded, looked at, appraised, and as long as they get a fair crack of the whip, either they get it back or it's sold, they get a fair share. But the importance of the Treasure Act not only protected detectories, but it protected landowners and farmers. Because up until then, lots of stuff had gone by the by, and they never even got to see most of the stuff. But now, with this, they know that at least they're going to get half. Because, as you know, back in the day, a bloke would go down with a valuable coin to the local pub and get a fraction of its value from some wide guy. But nowadays, I mean, that gold coin, well, no, single gold coin doesn't count, but that gold piece of jewellery now gets appraised properly, and a true reflection of the price, the current market value is then given out to the landowner and to the finder. So yeah, it's all good, but it wasn't always good. It was always a fight. And because we were a reactionary outfit, we had to be on our guard. Every press cutting that came in, every time we heard something was in the offing, every time and don't forget, this was staffed by volunteers. I even had to take time off work to go and see Lord Perth and the British Museum and the lawyers representing the Home Office and the Treasury. I mean, it was then that we were so passionate about it then that it really was almost a full-time job. My phone never stopped ringing in the evenings. And we were constantly battling against local authorities, the Coventry ban, the Hinckley ban. We got those lifted, and so on. It was. But nowadays we can sit back on our laurels and say, well, we've had a good fight. Now we can relax and enjoy the hobby for what it is.
Mm. Now you mentioned the Coventry bans and the Hinckley bans. Could you elaborate on them a little bit more? Because obviously, people like myself won't have a clue about that.
Well, the Coventry ban was the fact that they did not like the idea of anybody metal detecting on any of the council-owned land. The same with the Hinckley ban, and they would get out of the way to move people on, to take them out of the park. And at that point, we felt it's only right that we should confront this. And so, as I say, we started to raise a petition. We didn't get to raise it very, very high because by the time we confronted them that we were raising a petition, they'd relented and said, OK, we agree that you're a hobby. We agree that we've got to find you some facilities. How about you go on all of the parkland that's not being turned over for floral displays or for football pitches, but everywhere else you can go. And they not only gave us land, but they gave us maps. They gave us CDs. They gave us everything we needed for our members to go. But they only restricted it to 2 clubs, and that was the Arley Club, which is based just near Coventry, and the Coventry Heritage Detector Society. Now, the Coventry Heritage Detector Society is still in existence, and it's the only club that still maintains getting these permits. But very few people actually go on parks nowadays because they've got better land to go to. And but we will do parks if we're asked to, in terms of if people lose rings or keys or spectacles. We still offer a recovery service, and we still do that.
Brilliant.
John, I have a question real quick. It comes from the chat room. If Ncmd have funds available, could they not assist with PAS? I got to be honest with you. I'm pretty much in the dark. I'm not sure what's being asked because I don't know what PAS is, but
that's the Portable Antiquities Scheme.
Okay.
The fines liaison officers, when we find something of consequence fitting into the Treasure Act, we by law have to go to the fines liaison officer with that for that to be classed as treasure, etc., and go through the process.
Can I stop you, Dave? Can I stop you there?
Certainly, because you're far more thinking than I am.
Under the Act, you must go to the coroner in the first instance. The coroner then will call in the fines liaison officer to adjudicate whether or not it is treasure, and then take it forward. So just, I've got to stress that because people will think, oh, I've got to take it straight. They must report it within 14 days, but it must be reported within 14 days to an FLO. But it's got to be shown to a coroner first.
Right, I'm with you.
And might find that a bit strange. A coroner, what's a coroner? It goes back, Mike, to the Middle Ages when coroners did this sort of thing. Because apart from looking at dead bodies and debating whether or not so-and-so was killed in such a way, that was a little sort of perk of the job.
That's very neat. Very neat.
Mm. Right, so that obviously explains it a lot better than I could have.
But as I say, the Portable Antiquities Scheme, Yeah, to answer Mike's question, Mike, we work on a shoestring. In fact, can you imagine that you're getting £10 million worth of third-party liability cover for £6, right?
Wow. Wow.
Right, yeah. So what the National Council's making is not going to be enough you might be able to support one fire liaison officer for a salary for a year, but certainly not fire liaison officers throughout the country. I mean, it would be a wonderful idea. In fact, when I went to see Mr. Vasey, the MP who was the the head of the Department of Media and Sport, Culture and Sport, I said to him, we really are an asset that you could employ. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, a lot of our members are retired gentlemen and ladies who have got time on their hands and would be willing to volunteer to take part in archaeological digs, go into museums, record stuff, perhaps do a bit of drawing, a bit of photography. And why don't they use us? Because there are people out there who would be willing to do it. And you know something? He said, well, why don't they do it? We said, well, you tell us, because nobody's ever approached us. Because here's a willing force of people who could help out and would lighten the load of the FLOs and make the Port Atlantic Security Scheme more pliable. But it's like you're saying, a good idea, but never taken up.
Right.
But to answer the question about could we support financially the Port Atlantic Security Scheme, not really. No, not really at all.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't a question for me. That was from Thomas in the chat. We have a live chat going on at the same time. Just so I didn't know if you understood that.
Sure.
Just wanted to make clear. Okay.
Sure.
Dave, I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't know where we're at because I am way enjoying listening to John way too much to try to keep up.
Don't you worry. I'm keeping track of everything, so don't you worry. The formation of the Federal Federation of Independent Detectorists as an adjunct to the NCMD to accommodate individuals and associates. Can you go into a little bit of information about that?
Sure, I am.
Explain it a little bit better to the listeners.
When the National Council was first set up, there were three main bodies. As I said, there was the Northwestern region, the Southern region, and the Midlands region. And at the time, I wasn't the chairman. It was a guy called David Wood, and David Wood came up with the idea that that there ought to be not only an organisation of clubs, and clubs then obviously then becoming regions. But he felt that there was a need for individuals and associates to be looked after as well. And we agreed. And the National Council decided that if somebody wanted to do it, to set up this organisation, it would be, if you like, another region, another federation. It was called the Central Register. And this was going great. It was superb. It was working really well. And it became bigger and bigger than any of the other regions. And it became a sort of a bouncing baby on its own. But the only trouble was that when we got into negotiations with the government regarding changes to the Ancient Law of Treasure Trove to the Treasure Act, there were people in that organisation felt that the only way to counter this would be through demonstrations and protests. Well, I, as chair and as council, decided that this wasn't the way to go. You attract more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. So we were determined that we would sit down with the government and we would argue our case and put forward a case that got us what we wanted without having to protest, because there's only so much protesting you can do and then people get fed up with it. But if you come up with reasons, and when I went down to Lord Perth's home, as I said, he was a wily old gentleman. Apparently he'd been in the Secret Service during the war, so he was a real crafty sort of guy. And I remember when I first wrote to him, and I said to him, I'm all about protecting this hobby. Because he wrote to me several times, asked me if I'd go down to meet him at his London home. And I said, I'm all about protecting this hobby. And I said, if it meant protecting this hobby, then I would speak to the devil himself. He wrote back and said, well, the devil's inviting you down. And so I went down to see him, along with a guy called Dennis Jordan. Dennis Jordan was a legend in his own right. He was superb. He was the president when I was the chairman. And Dennis and I sat with Lord Perth and we argued the case that that if you really wanted us to drive us underground, then it's easy. Legislate against us and we're gone. But we'd still be there. And people would still be finding stuff. They'd be breaking the law. But if you wanted to find out what was being found in this country and being logged with the museums, then you had to get us on board. And he agreed. And he said, we will not legislate against the hobby, and we will make sure that your finders get a good return on their fines. Mm. At that point, FID decided, we can't have this, and they walked away. They walked away from the National Council. A lot of people don't realise that FID was a region of the National Council, but they up-camped and went off, and they became independent, and they departed from us. Mm. Now, the fact of the matter is that since those days, we now get invited to every meeting that concerns metal detecting, and they occasionally turn up, and we have the voice in the room. We are the voice in the room, and people know that if we say something will happen, well, it will happen. And FID, unfortunately, now one of the founders of FID is no longer with us, and it's struggling, I believe, at the moment. I'm not quite sure what the membership's like, but they certainly haven't got 16,000 members like we have. Mm. So that's where FID is at the moment. I don't want to say too much about them because I don't know too much about them, because I've never really, since they up-camped and left us, we've not really bothered with them since. So we're sort of too busy looking after ourselves. But that's how FID came about.
Hey, John, let me jump in if it's okay, real quick.
Sure.
For some dummy American, I just want to see if I've got this right. So pretty much how the system works now is all because of Ncmd.
Essentially, yes.
That's amazing.
Just being bloody-minded Brits. Saying that, no, we will not go under, we will not be banned, because we're not doing anything detrimental, we're not doing anything that hurts anybody. In fact, we're an adjunct to history. It's our history. Our forefathers lost those things in the ground, so essentially they belong to us.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's amazing.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's amazing that you guys, I so love your system and how it works. I have so much respect for it, and to know that you were a part of that and Ncmd is really amazing, because here in the United States, it's really it's kind of a mess. I mean, the archaeologists, for the most part, they hate us. They don't want anything to do with us. They don't want us digging. They would rather see it get covered up by a building project than for a detectorist to go in there and save that history. And I have so much respect for what you guys have, the system you have, because I make the argument all the time. Okay, I find all this cool stuff, but what's going to happen to it? I have things that I feel like should be in a museum, but what we have over here is you might have a little local museum and they might sell it off, or they might put it down in the basement that floods and it gets destroyed. You got to be really careful with stuff like that. And, there's particularly, I have many artifacts from a town that was gone by 1832. And I know that's not history to you guys, but for us and where I was at, it was kind of a big thing. And I couldn't give it to the local museum because you don't know what will happen to it. I mean, I had a guy who volunteered at his local museum, the next county over, who said, don't do it. Don't do it. Stuff gets sold, it gets lost, it gets destroyed. They don't have the funds. So for you guys to have that system in place where you have kind of, we've had a lot of guests on here who feel like the archaeologists and stuff support them and at least don't judge them. I mean, over here, it's a whole different story. So you guys have really fought hard for a really good system, I think.
Well, what you're describing, Mike, is how things were in the 80s for us. Because I would have members who would find lovely, lovely items, historical items, and they'd take them along to the local museum, and the museum would then start to log them, and they'd say, well, where did you find it, and how did you find it? And they say, I found it so-and-so with a metal detector. They would hand it back to you and rip up the form and say, we're not interested. In other words, if you hadn't got an ology, then they weren't interested. You had to have an ology. Now, a lot of the guys that I know are so well informed on the things they find that sometimes the FLOs have to refer to them. And Mike, it's all about the three tenets that we actually go by in the National Council, and it is there. There's protection, promotion, and encouragement. Now, obviously, the protect part, where we lobby the government, where we fight against green waste, and green waste, if you want to talk about, talking about it a bit later, and night hawking, and then promotion, spreading the word. I mean, I go into schools and do an audio-visual educational involved with the national school curriculum on the Romans of Britain. I love it, and the kids love it. And we take old bits of Roman pottery, and we take a Roman, a Roman helmet, and the kids absolutely, and they've got an audio-visual display. And then encouraging them. What we do then is we get younger people involved in the hobby. My daughter now, she's now come out into the hobby. The only trouble is, Mike, she finds more than me, so I'm a bit miffed. I'm a bit miffed at that. No, she's bloody good, I'll tell you. She's bloody good. And and people keep saying, well, why can't you be like her? Yes, I know. I've only been doing it for 40 years. But no, it's really getting those three tenets, if you like. But back in the 80s, I say we could not get breathing space in the museum.
Right.
But because we decided that we would do something about it and fight the good fight, that's the only way around it. And now we are now the envy of Europe. We are now the envy of Europe. There are countries in Europe now that would love to be how we are right now. We're very, very lucky, and I hope detectorists out there realise how lucky we are, that not everything is grabbed by the state. Not everything doesn't belong to you. Not everything gets taken off you. So we're very, very lucky.
You are.
God, I've got to get rid of this. I've got to get rid of this tub. I'm thumping it like crazy.
Yeah, I have a huge respect for what you guys have over there, and I hope someday we can move in that direction here, because it's, metal detecting is so looked down on by the archaeologists and stuff, and I've heard so many stories and things happening. I know a guy who donated stuff to a local museum. They were happy to have it. He went back in the next couple years to see what they had, and they'd lost it. He donated to another museum. They sold it. They'd said that they'd sold it off, and I don't think that's right, what we've got going on here. But then, this same guy was contacted by the local historical society about metal detecting where the earliest in the county the mill site was, that was getting ready to get turned into a parking lot. And he contacted an archaeologist at Ohio State University who did not have the funding. She was not interested because she didn't have the funding, but she didn't want him going there. And he said, hey, I've got the support of the local historical society. They want me to do this. And it turned into an argument where she did not want him there. And it's like, why? Why do you not want... I think there's a lot of closed-minded people here in the United States when it comes to artifacts and recovering. And, I've been doing this a long time, and I've met a lot of detectorists who... It's not about possessing the find. We love to find it, but if we can, in the grand scheme of things, we're here for such a short time. My God, if I could get something in a museum and know that it's safe and it's going to be there for a long time, I would love that. Nothing would make me feel better, because I can only possess it so long. I have the idea of possessing it doesn't do anything for me. It's about finding it and telling the story, and I just love what you guys are doing. Matter of fact, because we don't have a system like you, what I've often done is if the people that own the land are into history and stuff, I'll give it to them. A good example, an early log cabin that if you looked at the house, you would have thought it was built in the 1940s. It was very similar to the architecture of the 1940s. And these farmers that own thousands of acres were going to tear it down because they were having trouble getting their semis and stuff. It was right along the driveway at the entrance. And the one son started, he said, before we just bulldoze it over, let me pull the siding off, because you remember Grandpa always said that was, he thought that was one of the original homesteads. He tore the siding off, and it was absolutely one of the original homesteads. It was wood beams put together with wood dowels. I mean, the original, although it had been added on to, the original structure there was no nails used. And so he painstakingly tore this all apart and moved it to another part of the property for his grandkids and stuff to enjoy and tell the story. Well, he let me metal detect it, me and a friend, and we put all of our finds together from that site and gave it to him, and he was, I thought he was going to cry. He was so happy. And so, yeah, I know I'm going on and on, and I apologize, but
No.
What an honor. What an honor to speak to you, John, to know that you were a big part of this and what you guys have accomplished. Just amazing.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we experience the same as what you've been describing. This dog in a manger attitude is, if I can't pull it out of the ground as an archaeologist, then I don't want you to pull it out of the ground either. And we'd rather it rot in the ground than rather pull it out, which I think is an absolutely ridiculous train of thought. Yes. Because everybody wants to see it. And we every year, Mike, we have an exhibition, part of the historical weekend. Dave will probably know, because it happens all over the country. And we are so blessed that we have our exhibition in St. Mary's Guildhall, which is a middle-age 14th century Guildhall, the most beautiful building you've ever seen, right next to Coventry Cathedral, where the Germans blitzed it during the war.
Wow.
And we have 2,500 people come through on the Saturday and Sunday, and they love it. We love talking to them. We love telling them. We ask them to bring in their bits and pieces so we can describe them, we can photograph them, and it really is. And the people come and love to talk to us, and we love to talk to them. It doesn't cost us any money, but then again, we don't make any money. And the other thing, of course, is that every year I hold a charity. Well, in fact, I hold charity rallies now for the last 30-odd years. And at the charity rally I held before last year, a lady was lucky to come along and find a Richard III half angel, which is very rare. And she was lucky enough to be able to take it away and sell it for £40,000. Because under the Act, a single gold coin is not treasure. And her face was a picture. And to see her holding that, she hadn't got a clue what it was. She's not got a clue what it was. I knew what it was straight away. And when I described it to her, she said to me, is it really? I said, yeah. Very valuable, very rare. And I was pleased about that. And over the years, it's not about what you can get out of the hobby. In fact, Mike, I've never made a penny out of this hobby. In fact, this hobby's cost me money. But the joy I get from watching other people find stuff, and knowing that my daughter, who's, a third of my age, will still be doing this long after I'm gone.
Right.
And, it's great. It's great.
John, I like the fact that you sat next to her and you keep giving her age away and she hasn't slapped you yet.
Have I told you how old she is?
You did at the start, yeah. You give us a rundown of all the ages.
Oh, dear. Sorry about that. I'm not getting much of a response.
As obviously, as well as I'm going to ask about insurance. Insurance to members of the NCMD. Obviously, many people think that the insurance is the be-all and end-all of what the NCMD is about. Obviously, that is a hell of a lot different than what they think. But first of all, should we have a chat about the insurance and what basically is the coverage of that for members?
Well, all members are covered whilst they're out detecting in any way, shape, or form. It's a third-party liability, so therefore you can't claim if you lose your machine. But if your machine, if you go on a farm and leave a gate open and the prize bull goes out and gets hit by, I don't know, whatever, then the farmer can claim off that third-party insurance. Now, that covers you for things like exhibitions. It covers you for rallies. It covers you for anything where you're concerned with metal detecting. And it's as simple as that. You pay it's £8 really. It's £6 for insurance and £2 for admin. But the £6 goes to insurance, and that then covers you for one whole year. In fact, it's coming up quite soon. The 31st of March is the end date for the National Council insurance, and everybody will be renewing their insurance then on a fresh new card. So yeah, it's as simple as that. You are covered, and it's good because most farmers, I mean, the sort of livestock and the machinery they've got, I mean, runs into hundreds and tens and hundreds of thousands of pounds. And if anything should happen to that machinery, the single detectorist would be extremely liable. So therefore, we cover that for them. So far as yet, we've not had any major claims against us, but obviously that could happen tomorrow. But yeah, it's a good scheme, and it's a proper scheme as well. It's a proper coverage, £10 million, third party liability.
Mm-hmm. John, if it's okay, I'd like to ask you a question. I'm kind of going to put you on the spot here, and sure. I hope this isn't inappropriate. Last week, we had Chris Langston on, and he does trips for foreigners, I'm guessing mostly Americans, I would assume, to come over into England and metal detect. What's your thoughts on that? And before you answer, I'd like to say, as an American who someday wants to come over there and hunt, I would say most of us, our dream would be to get something. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, John?
John, you there?
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
It says the connection's lost.
It is end as well.
John, you there?
I think John's connection's dropped a little bit by the sounds of it from the thingy.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like
would there be an issue if you tried to ring him back in?
He's still there. Let's give it a second, see if he can.
Okay.
If it clears up. If not, we'll hang up on him. And John, can you hear us? Hello, John. Can you hear us?
Erstwhile, Mike, it is fascinating, isn't it? The whole, all the information behind the National Council for Metal Detecting.
Amazing. To talk to him is a real honor. I didn't know how involved they were in the hobby and changing it. Just incredible. So John, are you there? Okay, let's hang up on him and let me see if I can call him back in. We are working on that as we speak. Yeah, I'm just kind of blown away, Dave. I'll be honest with you. It's
do you know, in the UK, I mean, as I've told you in the past, my dad being a detectorist in the 70s, I have been able to chat with a lot of people of an older generation, and you might not be that they're able to offer you hints and tips on certain things, but gosh, the information, the tales that they can tell is absolutely fantastic.
Yes. Absolutely.
As you spoke to Julian from Treasure Hunting magazine, you know, that knowledge of the past and the information and the stories they can tell you, I could listen to them forever. I really could.
Right. Yeah, me too. I've been detecting over 20 years, and I know guys that have been doing it 30, 40, 50. It's amazing to me. And, just a thought that's been on my mind today is, I know guys that have been doing this 5 years who are cocky and know it all. And it's like, you guys, hey, I haven't been in it very long compared to some of these guys, and the information they have is just amazing. So it's just, there's real pioneers of the hobby that have shaped it to what it is. And, you guys for sure are lucky to have somebody like John and what he represents. And you guys, I think I am very jealous of your system over there and how it works. And I'm still trying to get John in. We're not having any luck. I'm just not sure what happened. Here's my third attempt. Hopefully we'll get him back. But yeah, we
are very, very lucky in this country, I must admit.
Well, and it not only as a detectorist, but as somebody who loves history, your guys' history gets put on display. I mean, the opportunity to get it bought from you, there we go. John's back.
You're back, yes.
Hey, John.
Right. The connection was lost for a while.
We are good now that we hear you loud and clear. So, John, I had a question. I'm going to put you on the spot if okay. I don't know what you heard, but I'll start over. Last week we had Chris Langston on, and he puts together trips to England for mostly foreigners. Like I know the United States is heavily targeted to come over there and hunt. And I gotta say, I kind of seen both sides of the argument. And after having Chris on, I thought what he does is really good. If you don't mind, what's your thoughts on that?
This has cropped up several times. The issue is that with our insurance, one of the conditions of our insurance is you must have a British address to be covered by our insurance. Now, I don't know how these commercial ventures get around that, whether or not they fix up private insurance while those people are over here. But I've got no problems with people coming over here and detecting on land where A, they've got permission, and B, that they're being looked after and shown the right way to do things. But more importantly, if they do find things, I must stress that they've got to obtain export licenses if they want to take them out of the country. Because once again, we go back to the Port of Antiquities scheme. So many things are being lost to academia and to the archaeological world before the Portable Antiquities scheme. And now that we've got the Portable Antiquities scheme, if they could show it to a local museum who will verify whether or not what it is, identify it, and say whether or not it does need to be classed as something that they would like to hang on to, or they may issue you with an export license and take it out of the country. But the National Council does not promote commercial rallies. We do not. We're not in that game. We're not in that game. But they do a pretty good job of doing that themselves. But no, I haven't got an issue with it. As I say, if they're covered by their own insurance, if they abide by the rules, if they don't make a mess, and if when they do find something good, they go through the procedures and gain an export license, I don't have a problem with it.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know Chris other than having him on our podcast, but there's no doubt in my mind he's doing it right. And I'm guessing all of them that offer these kind of trips are doing it correctly, But, I can say as an American, I would love to come over. And again, it's not about possessing it or bringing it home. Heck, anything I could get put in a museum would just be wonderful, so I don't know. I think it's, I kind of thought that's what your thought would be on that. I was just curious.
Sure. Have you, excuse me, have you got it in your head to come over, Mike?
Eventually, yes.
Oh, I look forward to seeing you and taking you out on some of our older sites.
I would love that. I'm so looking forward to it. I mean, I've had after starting this podcast, I've had so many invitations over, and you guys over in England are just so nice and friendly about it, and I love that. I'll tell you, I also do a podcast for here in the United States. I actually do it 2 nights a week, and don't get me wrong, I love it, but this is the show I look forward to doing every week. Your history goes back so much farther, and it's so interesting. We've been lucky, fortunate, thanks to Luke and Dave. We've had some just amazing guests, and I love doing this. But yeah, it's just made me want to come over more. Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to be very busy when you get here, though, Mike. The amount of invitations you've received.
You're not kidding. I mean, and what an honor, such an honor.
You'll
love it, Mike. You'll absolutely love it.
He will. And do you know what he'll love the most?
What?
The ale.
Yeah, he probably will. Yes.
I would love to come over. I would love to come over for something like Detectival and spend the weekend and meet so many people that we've talked to and had guests and that are in chat all the time and stuff. And then I would like to take just a week and spend out in the field, sunrise to sunset, and just metal detect. That's my dream. And here in the next year or two, hopefully that can happen.
Well, yeah. I'm waiting with bated breath, so tell that lady of yours, come on, let's get it sorted.
I'm a little bit scared.
So can I make an appeal at this point, Mike?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the thing is that we in the Midlands, the strength of the National Council resides in the regions. It always has done. The regions were the guys who fought the good fight in the areas concerned and joined together to fight it nationally. But the regions really are very, very important. And we're always looking to increase our membership to make ourselves stronger. In my own region, in my own Midlands Federation, which I'm the chairman, I've been the chairman for the last 40 years, we have rallies, we have, I say charity rallies, we have charity rallies, we have exhibitions, we have quizzes, we have lectures. And we would like more and more people to join us. So if people are thinking about joining the National Council this year, they might like to do it through us, through www.midfed.co.uk. That's one thing. But the other thing is that we would like detectorists to really sort of come and support us in the way that this will be our 40th anniversary, and the National Council is looking for ways of celebrating our continuation, really. So we don't always profess on the National Council Executive to know what everybody's thinking. We'd like the ideas of the rank and file out there. We'd like the ideas for what we could do to celebrate our 40th anniversary. So if people have got good ideas, please send them forward to the National Council, and we'd love to hear them.
Absolutely, that's amazing.
Idea.
Absolutely. Hey guys, real quick, let's take a minute break, minute and 20 actually, to be correct, and we'll come right back and we'll start right where we left off. Hold on one second, guys.
Are you doing what I was supposed to remind you to do?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. Okay, bear with me one second.
The Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine acts as a hub for information, offering articles from archaeologists, detectorists and other specialists throughout the genre, featuring many links, event info and news articles associated to archaeology and metal detecting. We also offer professional review services and promotion for books, resources, videos, documentaries, gadgets, equipment and much, much more. The magazine is run by the archaeological and metal detecting community for the archaeological and metal detecting community. So come visit us at archmdmag.com, that's archmdmag.com, and check out information from our media section with all the latest content, news from the Archaeology channel, podcast and the YouTube channels that feature the now legendary Digger Dawn, the Man with the Hat and Archeo Duck, just to name a few. If you would like to offer an article, link or inquire about other services, then pay us a visit at archmdmag.com and drop us a line.
All right, we are back. We are back at it. Dave, you know something I was just thinking? You've got a question to ask from Mr. Luke Higgins. Every show he sends us messages while we're doing the show, why doesn't he just become another co-host with us?
Well, you'll have to ask him yourself.
Yeah, Luke.
I think Luke would rather work behind the scenes. I mean, when we were at Detectable, obviously the show we done with yourself, which was more or less the precursor to the All Metal Mode UK. Mm-hmm. Luke forced me to do it basically. No, Dave, you could do it. So I think he'd rather. I mean, I've been doing different types of radio shows and such like for quite some time now. So I think it's a case of you do it, Dave. I'll be behind the scenes.
Well, what's funny is he says he doesn't like to be on the radio. He's made excuses like that, but he does YouTube videos. Why can't
boy, can he talk?
Right. And he does great videos. Why can't he? And he's got a great voice for it. So for those listening, I've got to say, and John, Luke is behind the scenes, and he really, really makes this show so great. We've had great guests. He's often involved with the questions, and he's always involved in getting guests and everything else. Of course, Dave has gotten some great guests, but I feel like Luke just needs to jump on. He just needs to be, the three of us doing the show together. And
alternatively, I'll book a holiday one week and Luke can do it instead.
I don't think he'll do it. He doesn't want to do it. I don't know why. I think he likes to drink and listen. I think he's afraid he'll have too many drinks. I don't know. I don't know what his deal is. He cracks me up though.
Well, when he collared me into doing it, when he came to an executive meeting of the National Council, he more or less persuaded me that, of course, I was the one with all the knowledge going back 40 years. But the thing was that his persuasion persisted. And, he got me really, really interested in doing this. So really, he is very persuasive and he's a very good talker.
Yes, he is. He is. He's great. And he helps us so much behind the scenes. I wish he'd just jump on and join us, but he doesn't seem to have any interest at this point.
For me, with the Archaeology Metal Detecting magazine, Luke's been pivotal to its success over the last couple of years. I couldn't have done what's occurred without him. And as we all know, there's numerous things coming in the new year, and a lot of that is down to Luke personally as well. So I can't give him enough plaudits. So apart
Same
from
here.
maybe his dress sense, it could tone it down a bit. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, he does so much, but he just.
John, just before the break, we were talking about the celebrations for the anniversary of the National Council for Metal Detecting, and obviously being in the position we are in, I myself and Luke would like to offer as much support as we can with that, even if it's just getting the information out there via social media and such. Like we'd fully like to support the events.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's really good. As I say, because if we can spread the word, then obviously it'll attract more people, and stronger is better.
It certainly is.
Yes.
While we're talking about magazines, obviously I alluded to the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine there. A lot of people, again, who aren't members, don't know of the Digging Deep magazine.
Ah, right. Yes, Digging Deep. Digging Deep was our way of being able to make contact with our membership without having to phone them up or send them a letter. So we brought out, in the first instance, a four times a year magazine dedicated to what was going on in the National Council. But the problem you've got there is because we've got two excellent commercial magazines, people tend to send in their contributions, their stories, their photos, their yarns and their poetry, and hopefully get paid for it. Whereas we don't pay anybody for it, but we're happy to accept contributions. So Digging Deep is really, if you like, the voice of the National Council Metal Detecting. It's issued free. Once you pay your subscription, we're probably going to limit it now to 3 issues per year. Because it's finding somebody, Trevor Austin, our General Secretary of many years, he looked after it, but unfortunately he died tragically, and now we've got nobody who's willing to sort of take it on. I mean, it can be a bit of a full-time job, some of these jobs. But no, we're hoping that we can fill the pages once again and hopefully get at least 3 issues out this coming year. But as I say, we're up against commercialism, and commercialism really, people buy the 2 big magazines, and we can't compete with them, really.
Mm. So how long or what caused the foundation of that magazine in particular? When was that formed?
Oh God! Do you know I've got every copy every issue that's been brought
wow.
out because I appear in a lot of them actually. But the thing was that it was brought out simply because our membership wanted to know more about what we were doing, and of course when we were up against it, our members really wanted to know at what stage we were at in the fight to protect the hobby. So we wanted to keep them informed, and it was the simplest, easiest way for us to do it. And it was quite a glossy magazine. Sometimes it ran to 8 pages, and when we hadn't got much in it to put in, it ran to 6 pages. I don't think we've ever got below 5 pages or 4 pages. I think we've ever got below that. But it is hard to bring it out because we rely on Joe Detectorist to supply the topics. Mm. So it's if guys gave us more stuff to put in, then we would certainly crack on and get it out. And it's something that it's something that obviously the people paying their subs get it free. So therefore, we'd love to put more out, but unfortunately we require on our people to give us the information to print.
And of course, back issues are available on the Ncmd website, www.ncmd.co.uk. That's the website. If you put publications after a slash, back issues 1 through to 25 are there. Plus other publications as well.
Are there still some about? Goodness,
still all online, all on the website.
Oh yes, certainly online. Yes, absolutely, yes. And yours truly appears on a few of them, especially when we did the Night Hawking thing, and also when we did the green waste. I'm surprised that you've not had many inquiries about green waste throughout the podcast, because that really is the big crunch that's going to hit us all if we're not careful. But I suppose you've discussed this in the past anyway, so.
We've given semi-mention to it, but again, Mike being in America, they have different issues, so you've got
absolutely.
a fantastic segue into learning a bit more about green waste.
Let's talk about that. But before we do, I've got to say this: I believe your daughter's sitting with you.
Sure, she's sitting next to me now. Yes.
Have her hold your head, because Kimberly Dubé said, "John, thank you for the most informative conversation I've heard yet. Thanks for taking the time to educate us metal detectors." Now, I got to tell you, John, we've had some amazing guests. And Kimberly has been here through all of them. So for her to say that, you need to have your daughter hold your head. So your head should be really big right now. But no, I'll be honest with you. I'm not even sure what you're talking about. Green waste. Please, let's go there.
Okay. Quite simply, most households in the UK, usually, I mean, this varies from town to town, city to city. But in Coventry, for instance, we've got 3 waste bins. One's for garden waste, one's for household waste, and one is for recyclable.
Okay.
Now, so the garden waste is things like leaves, plants, a bit of soil, stuff like that, which should then be taken away by the council and taken to composters. Now, these composters, what they do is they churn it all over in various stages and make it down to what usually ends up as friable, very good friable, good loamy soil, which is great for the gardens, great for planting seeds. But unfortunately, lazy councils will chuck any old rubbish in, and householders are to blame as well, because when another bin gets filled, they'll hide some of the old household rubbish under the leaves, and it gets taken to the composters. But the important thing is that when the stuff is composted, it's then either given away to farmers, because the composters have got to get rid of it, or they sell it to farmers. Now, the big problem there is that not only are these composters dealing with household waste and leaves and stuff and shrubs that can be composted down, But they're also dealing with warehouses, which are getting rid of old furniture, which are being crushed, and which result in screws, brackets, bolts, hinges, bolts appearing in this stuff. So when it gets spread on the land, what you will end up with is a conglomeration of not only household rubbish, garden rubbish, but things like hypodermic syringes, sanitary towels, batteries, cadmium batteries. I mean, stuff that should not be in anybody's land, because essentially you're growing crops on this land. The water runs off this land into streams and rivers. We are polluting the countryside. Now, obviously, as a detectorist, it's in my interest to keep the land as pure as possible. Now, the problem we've got, Mike, is that unsuspecting farmers sometimes have this stuff put on their land without knowing about it. Some of them actually pay to have it and not know about it. But the point is this, that if this stuff, once this stuff goes on the land, you go on with the detector, and as soon as you switch your machine on, you cannot detect that land anymore. It's just a constant noise. Now, the problem you've got there is that if you've got a farmer who unwittingly has put this stuff on his land and not paid for it, or even paid for it for that instance, what will happen is that he will not be happy that the crops that he's growing on that land may not be saleable. So therefore, he's not going to be broadcasting very much. So if you go to him and say, listen, do you realise you've got all this rubbish on your land? You really ought to be thinking about, should you be selling potatoes, carrots, cabbages, cauliflowers from this land? Now, they're not going to be happy because obviously that's his living. So therefore, what he's going to say, turn around and say to you is, tell you what, I don't want you on my land anymore, because I've got to value my land more than I value your input. So we have tried to make the world and his dog aware of this going on, but unfortunately it does go on. And once land has got green waste on it, it's lost to us forever. Now, we're obviously concerned because of the hobby, but moreover, what really concerned is the archaeologists, because when they've got ground radar, this stuff is being picked up and it's giving false signals all around. So I, back in 2009, got involved for the National Council with another guy, and we set about talking to various people, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, and other organisations, and to say to them, are you aware that this is happening? And to be honest, Mike, they weren't interested, because we're small beer. We're small beer. We're not making the headlines. And unfortunately, it still goes on. Now, where we ended up with this campaign, we got a petition up at the time, and a petition that unfortunately didn't get 100,000 signatures, because that meant it would have to be discussed in Parliament. It didn't get there. What I did do, I managed to get Sir Bob Russell to talk at a German debate at 8 o'clock at night on the 12th, back in 2012, to a half-empty chamber of the Houses of Parliament to discuss this, and also the minister responsible for it, who promised that he would look into it, which obviously usually means nothing's going to happen. But Sir Bob relied on me for the information, and bless him, I got mentioned, I think it was 6 times in Hansard and on the telly, because he was reciting my words. But that's where it ended. Now, Newcastle University took up the reins and decided that, because the Department of the Environment were very keen that this should not go on, they didn't have any money to progress any further, but got the Archaeological Department involved, and the Archaeological Department came up with an app, which meant that people who could put this app on their mobile phones, if they went somewhere and discovered that this green waste was in existence, they could report it straight away, and that Newcastle University would be able to record it and plot where the worst parts of the country and who were the biggest malefactors. Now, we urged caution, the National Council urged caution, because it's all very well being righteous and a good citizen, but if you've got a farmer with, say 500 acres, and only 100 of those acres have got green waste, and you are going to put him away to the authorities, then he's not going to be very happy about that. So we said, before you actually alert the authorities to the fact that this guy is farming on land covered in green waste, be mindful of the fact that you're going to lose the rest of that land, and also you're going to get yourselves a bad reputation. But we did say that if the farmer is in agreement that you should contact through this app, then by all means do so. But we urge caution, because it's all right being a good citizen, but if at the end of the day you make an enemy of the farmer and you lose good land, then it's not going to be good for the rest of us.
Absolutely, I get that.
So do you understand now what green waste is, Mike?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I thought I knew what it was, but I wasn't sure in what context. I knew what it was. I wasn't sure in what context you were where there was an issue. But yeah, thank you for clearing that up. That's amazing. So do you guys have any more plans to work with that, or is it more under control now in 2019?
Well, no, it's not under control by any means. But what we are doing is highlighting it once again. There's another member of the executive, a guy whose name escapes me for the moment, who's going to be picking the cudgels up and moving forward. I think other people are now starting to get involved. I've offered whatever help I can from the information I gleaned back in 2009 to 2012. But as I say, it became very, very frustrating that I'll give you a little example. In my own local authority, I knew that this stuff was being picked up, taken to a composter, and it's being mulched and then moved around, and gradually it wears down and goes down and down and down till it becomes suitable to go on the land, including all the bits and pieces that shouldn't be there. And I rang up the council and I said to them, do you actually audit these composters? Do you actually make sure they do what they're supposed to be doing? Oh, yes, they said, we do that. Yes, we do that a couple of times a year. I said, well, what form does this audit take? And she says, well, we phoned them up a week beforehand. And I thought, that's not good. That's not good. Right. Don't you think that somebody might be onto you before they actually... And all I got was, well, they wouldn't do that, would they? I thought, my darling, you are so naive. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's an ever-growing... I mean, we've had some wonderful sites where there's been gold status come off and where it's been beautiful, beautiful land, but no good to anybody anymore. It's gone. It's gone.
That's
never
horrible.
To be detected on again. It's a great shame. It's a great shame. What we do love is the farmers who, I think mostly American farmers are like this. They only put on the land what's come off the land, and that's been passed through cows and horses and beef and cattle and all sorts. That's the way it should be. That's how it should be. That's how it should
absolutely.
Be. Not rubbish, not poisoners, not cadmium batteries.
No, take metal detecting out of the picture. It's not healthy for us. I don't want to eat carrots and different vegetables off of land that's got that kind of stuff in it.
Absolutely, yeah. You're absolutely right.
I want to, this is way off the subject, but this is something I keep meaning to bring up, and I want to just say this real quick. If you go out to Facebook, we have two different groups. We've got All Metal Mode, which is for the All Metal Mode shows I do Monday and Tuesday nights for the United States, and then we've got All Metal Mode Podcast UK. And something I'm noticing, we're getting a lot of people from the UK joining the All Metal Mode podcast. I have no problem with that at all. Please do. I just want people to be aware there's two separate. If you're trying to join the discussions going on with this podcast in the UK and stuff, you want to make sure it's the All Metal Mode podcast UK. Again, absolutely no issue with anybody joining either one from whatever country. Just, I suspect there's been a little confusion, and it just actually come to mind. I'm sorry we got off subject there, but Dave, you still with us?
I'm always here.
I was afraid you fell asleep. I know you've been busy and working a bunch, and you were awful quiet, buddy. Awful quiet.
I'm listening, same as you were, my friend.
Yeah, John's a great guy to listen to, isn't he?
Certainly is. Now, John, obviously, again, we went from green waste onto night hawking and future registration. Start again. Future legislations within the laws and such like.
Okay, night hawkers. This was quite simple, actually. Night hawkers, and I resist using that term because it makes them sound like swashbuckling buccaneers or guys who go out like Robin Hood to rob the rich and feed the poor. The night hawkers are people going equipped to steal. It's as simple as that. Now, the National Council took the view that we do not encourage night hawkers. We never will encourage night hawkers. We don't want night hawkers. And where our members and a lot of people will contact me and say that if they find night hawkers on their land, they're happy for the authorities to come and take them away, or for the farmers. Now, the trouble is with the law of trespass in this country, it's not a criminal offence, it's a civil offence, and that means that the landowner or whoever owns the land, one might be a corporation or anything else, they must prosecute the people involved. But we take the view that it's stealing, it's getting us a bad reputation. I've got to say that 99.9% of the people I know have never, ever, and never would go on land without permission. Because why should they? I find it hard enough to find stuff in the daytime, let alone finding stuff at night.
No,
yeah. Yeah. And if you're wearing one of these silly lights on your head, then surely you must stick out like a sore thumb. So therefore, the people who do it, what do they get for it anyway? You find stuff. The only way you can possibly do it or get rid of your ill-gotten gains is to sell it down the local pub for next to nothing, or try and scoot it out in the country and get a lousy price then. You're better off doing it properly, legally, going through the Port of Antiquity scheme, getting it registered. You can't lose out, because the deal we've got with the Port of Antiquity scheme and the Treasure Valuation Committee is we get the right value for our members. So therefore, night hawking, no. People going equipped to steal, as simple as that.
Mm.
Now, do you find that that's less than it was back 10, 20, 30 years ago? Here in the United States, I've talked to a lot of old timers, and I'm going to say right up front, I do not believe in metal detecting where you don't have permission. Period. The end. I think it's horrible. I hate it, but I have talked to some guys that been doing it 30, 40 years who would often just go on property, knowing that they didn't have permission and stuff. So I would say here in the United States, at least, I feel like that has gone down significantly. Do you think it's better there than it was in the past, or is it getting worse, or what's your current situation?
Well, in point of fact, I'm glad you asked me that, because some little time back, English Heritage believed that this problem was so widespread that they commissioned Oxford Archaeological Unit to do a survey and find out how extensive this problem was. English Heritage paid £100,000 for them to do this survey. Now we said at the time, why don't you contact us and we'll give you the information for nothing? And they said, well, no, we want to do this properly, right? So they had a figure in mind as to how things used to be. But the thing was that all they had to do was pick up the phone and ring around all the constabularies in the country and ask the local superintendent, how many people have you caught? How many people have you prosecuted? And how extensive is the problem? Now, those simple telephone calls would have saved them £100,000. But the result was, Mike, when they came back and they were being honest and straightforward, they said the problem had gone down and not up. So therefore, English Heritage's view that this was a growing problem was in fact the opposite. But it cost £100,000 to find out.
Right. Here, I am part of, obviously, I do follow some of the Facebook groups, Metal Detecting UK, and I have seen a few times people bring up night hawking or that they night hawk, and everybody seems to jump on board and say, that's wrong. Stop it. Don't do that. And so I feel like, much like us, you guys are heading in the right direction with that, making sure you do it correctly. And so that's a good thing, because that gives us a bad name. Very bad name. Don't get me wrong, we still have our issues here, but I do feel like things are getting better.
I think if you're in a club and you're all working together, there should be no reason why you shouldn't have enough land to be going on with. I do feel sorry for the individuals who can't get in clubs because there are waiting lists and because the more popular clubs are obviously always fully booked. But it's a great shame. But the individuals, back in the day when I was doing it on my own, you don't knock on the door. The farmer either says yay or nay. But the thing is that you shouldn't have to resort to going on at night, skulking about, breaking the law. You shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm. No, that's just all bad. Bad for the hobby. Bad for everything. Very bad. Yeah.
What do you think, Dave?
I'm totally agreement. I've discussed on the show a few times a case of a colleague of mine at Tempest, the group that I chair in Congleton. He had a sighting crew. He went on the site. The article's actually on the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine website. It's the Incomplete Staffordshire Hoard. He found, I can't remember off the top of my head the amount of hammered coins he found, but it was classed as a hoard. Now, he did go with a certain person onto the site several times, and the person basically found one of the additional coins. Now, when he was contacted by the fines liaison officer, the fine liaison officer said, you've got this coin. He said, I ain't got a clue what you're on about. Never even heard of said person. So my friend got a phone call several weeks later. What's occurring here? What do you mean what's occurring? He said, are you up on the land? He said, no. He said, well, someone's up there with, you can see torchlight and what have you. And basically, he believes the person who, because he's the only other person knew about the site, and all the coins that were found, had gone back at night time without permission, and basically probably more of this incomplete hoard were added to, but without anybody's knowledge, by the person. His car was seen in the area, etc. So I'm utterly disgusted by that. I actually know the other person as well, and it disgusts me that's transpired. And obviously, being privy to a lot of the reports that come out via the magazine, because obviously we share most of the news all around the internet and such like. Privy to the information, having obviously a metal detecting or good archaeology story crops up, I read it thoroughly on my breaks at work and whatnot. And the amounts that have come through and the amounts of the police comments on it, it's them three chaps down south who were selling artifacts, obviously acquired via unknown means or via night hawking. It just disgusts me. I'm total agreement. And, people like that should be banned from owning machines. If somebody kicks a dog, they get banned from having dogs. If people are night hawking, then they should, by law, be banned from having metal detectors, as far as I'm personally concerned.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. It's as I say, I don't think it's prolific, but I do think that it's out there, and it's going to be very difficult to stop them because, as I say, we haven't got the resources in this country. Police are stretched anyway, and if somebody does phone an issue in, I think people getting knifed in city centres is probably more important than
it certainly is.
A bloke rooting around for a few grotty Roman coins.
I don't want to get into...
I'm a massive advocate on the relationship between archaeologists and metal detectorists. It's one of the goals of the website when I originally founded it, was to bridge the gap between the two that exist, to try and help them work together better. And in some respects, it has worked. We do have archaeologists commenting on metal detecting finds and such like, and vice versa. And it's been a nice relationship, what we've actually witnessed, myself and Luke in the background. So for that to exist, then obviously the night hawking, it's a well-known thing, and archaeologists don't trust metal detectorists and one of the main reasons is that. So I'm a big non-believer in it.
I don't want to get.
Sorry. I was just thinking that back in the day, do you remember Tony Gregory from Norfolk? Now, Tony Gregory was he was the trendsetter for how archaeologists should get into bed with metal detectorists and how they can both help each other. And as I say, unfortunately, people like Tony Gregory, he wasn't listened to, and it took us many, many years to arrive at this position we're at now. Whereas if we'd listened to Tony Gregory back in the day, we'd arrived there much, much sooner. Mm. Yeah. Nice guy, great guy.
I think something a little bit different here in the United States versus the UK, and I definitely don't want to open up politics, but here in the United States, you get caught on land, you don't have permission, you're likely to get shot at the very least, and I think that's a little bit. Think that discourages it a little bit more here.
What if we only shot them a little bit?
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down with that. Just maim them a little bit. Give them a good lifelong
shoot them in the detecting arm.
Yeah, exactly. But we definitely have it. We definitely have issues even here, and I think it's horrible. I don't care. You're always going to have, no matter what you're doing, there's bad apples. And it's a shame that there's so few, but they represent to archaeologists and legislators, that they represent a huge part. Mm. And so it is something we have to be very careful with and discourage that. I think in social media and different places that needs to be not just discouraged, but those people need to be shut down, at least not allowed to talk about it.
Mm. Mike, what's the club scene like in the States?
I suspect nothing like it is over there. Clubs are very, you get together once a month and you show off finds and you go your separate ways. I think, I've been part of a couple clubs, and my experience is you got to be careful with the clubs. You got those people there lurking, wanting to know where you hunt and wanting to follow you and different things. And definitely, I don't think anything like what you guys have. If there's a single club over there, like on the Detectorist, I would join that for life. Those guys sitting around talking about buttons and stuff just cracks me up.
I have been to loads of clubs like that to give them talks. And they exist, Mike, believe me.
Oh, I would love that. Absolutely love that.
I once went to give a talk to a club in Redditch. It's long gone now. They invited me to come, and it was a December evening. And I made my way all the way there. It took me about an hour to get there. When I got there, the place was shrouded in fog, and there was a guy standing outside the door, and he said, "Oh, they've called the meeting off now, and they've asked me to wait until you arrive so I can shut the hall." And I thought, that's great. I'm going to go back home again now. But that's what you're up against. But they only lived in the village and couldn't make it to the hall. I'd travelled nearly 40 miles.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I love the Detectorist and when they do the club meets and how they portray that is just brilliant. I think love that show but no, it's I don't know. I'm not big into the clubs. The clubs I've been a part of, you got to be very careful. There's people there with ill intentions. They want to know where you hunt and hey, you got someplace you can take me kind of thing. And I think. Maybe it's my time in the hobby or my experiences or whatever, but don't get me wrong, there are some absolutely fantastic people in this hobby, but I have had more than my fair share of run-ins with people that are ready to take advantage, and they want you to take them on their property and you'll never get an invite, and they'll go behind your back and try to get permission or hunt without permission and stuff. And so I'm very leery. I prefer to just hunt by myself. I got a few friends I'll hunt with, and that's it.
Yeah, you're right. It does happen. Luckily, because I've known a lot of these people for such a long time now, we trust each other that when we do get a site, and Laura and I, we're the chief site finders for our club, and we've been very successful in the last few weeks. We've managed to get 3 brand new farms, and the only problem we've got now is finding the time to do them all. Because we've got, you're either got to go in one direction, or you can't keep this farmer happy, or you can't keep that farmer happy. Because the thing is, when we go out, we all chip in £5 each, and that goes towards the farmer. Now, last weekend we were at a farm, and we raised some money, and the farmer said, please give it to charity. So we did, and
nice.
That was great. I mean, there's a local baby hospice, and we gave money to that. So therefore, it makes it good, because nobody's ever gonna make a fortune out of this hobby. I mean, the only person I know who's ever made a fortune was dear old Terry Herbert, who, by the way, is a member of my federation.
Really?
How did he make money? How did he make money?
He found the Staffordshire Hoard.
Oh, I knew that name. Yeah, that's too funny.
What a wonderful, wonderful man.
Oh.
I presented him with a trophy awarded by the National Council of Metal Detecting for the Hoard of the Year. There was nobody else in the running that year.
I bet not.
Nowhere near. But the trouble was, he couldn't turn up to the meeting for me to present it to him. So I decided to go along to his club on his club night without him knowing. I spoke to his club secretary, and they said, all our members will be there, but we'll not tell Terry. So when I turned up with this beautiful case, this velvet lined case with this huge silver cup, and his chairman said, Terry, John Wells is here, chairman of the National Council, and he'd like to talk to you. And I said, I'd like to award you a beautiful trophy. And he went, oh, thank you very much. And he looked at me, and I thought, this is a guy who's been interviewed by everybody and his dog. Yeah? And this is a guy who's now fed up of people asking the same questions. Anyway, we sat down and we talked, and then he realised that, I was a true detectorist, and that we were on the same wavelength. And he told me some wonderful, wonderful things about the hoard that he found. And I said to him, don't forget, Terry, this is an annual prize. So when you have finished with it, you've got to send it back to me in this velvet line case. But you get to keep this little replica, this little silver replica, forever. And he said, well, when I send it back to you, how shall I send it? I said, send it by registered post. And he said, who's going to pay the bill? And I looked at him. Of course, he was obviously taking the mick. And his mate said, do you know he hasn't even bought us a drink? And I can't believe that. But he's a wonderful, wonderful man. When you first meet him, you think, oh, he's grumpy. But he's not. He's a wonderful, wonderful man.
He's grumpy.
And I'm so pleased that it was life-changing for him. Life-changing.
Oh, for sure. I imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But wonderful, wonderful man. No, one of the joys of being the chairman of the National Council was going to meet people like him.
Oh, I bet that's amazing. I knew when you said the name, I'd recognize. I'm thinking, how would I know that name? But yeah, that is too funny. What about you've been detecting since forever. What about your finds? Have you found some really neat stuff?
Well, do you know, people always ask me this question, what's the best thing you've ever found? And I say, well, to be honest with you, it's not anything to do with metal. I was on a farm off the A5, which is the old Watling Street, the old Roman road, and we were sheltering from the rain in a lay-by, and it was pouring with rain, so we decided to have our coffee and sandwiches. The rain had stopped, so I got out of the car, walked back onto the field where we were, and there was this thing glinting about 100 yards away. Luckily, the sun was right in front of me, and as I walked towards it and bent down, there it was. It was a 500,000-year-old hand axe.
Wow.
Stone Age hand axe. And I knew straight away what it was. Now, most people would have either kicked it or thrown it away, but I knew exactly what it was straight immediately. And I thought, that's brilliant. I'm the first person to probably pick this up in 500,000 years. And I thought, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
Now, when we have exhibitions, I say to people, because I've now got it encased in a glass case, as I said, this is the oldest thing in the room apart from my wife. No. No, I said, this is the oldest thing in the room by far. And but I've just been told that something else I found recently, I handed it into the local FLO, and she took it away to at the British Museum, and it was what I believe. Well, I was using it as a doorstop, but it was made of andesite, which you might know is the mountains in the Andes. That's where the rock is made from. It's quite rare to find andesite in this country, but it is an hand axe, and it's been returned to me in 2 months' time. So I'm quite pleased about that. So
Wow.
I've got two of them.
Wow,
so,
that is incredible.
It was nothing to do with metal, but it was while I was out, eyes only, searching. Wonderful.
You know, that's funny you bring it up, because I think as detectorists, you know, getting out opens up so many doors. And, so, you know, here in the United States, arrowheads and Indian artifacts. And, you know, I know people that have found some amazing, and I know they're big over there too, insulators. You know, there's so many treasures, and you're not going to find them if you don't get out. So you get out metal detecting, and you love metal detecting, and it really opens the doors up for all kinds of things that can be found. That's such an interesting story. Thanks for sharing that, John.
Well, the thing is, when I talk to people, and they obviously don't appreciate the fact that finding coins is very interesting to them. But when I tell them that when I go out, I get to see the countryside first thing in the mornings. I get to see deer. I get to see rabbits, foxes.
Yes.
I'm breathing fresh air. I'm with good company. We're talking to each other. We're having a laugh. And finding stuff, I mean, many days I come off the fields with nothing. So finding stuff is good, but it's not the be-all and end-all of detecting.
I've had days where I haven't found anything, and I've just had an absolute blast. Ran into a deer or a fox or, you know, whatever it is. Or you know, have you ever been out detecting and you're kind of aggravated, and you stop and you just look and, wow, look at the clouds. Feel the air on your skin. It's like, hey, this is still a good day. You know, sometimes you just gotta stop and realize how lucky we are and how fortunate we are to be out and doing what we do.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
That's great. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so as I say, I think as well, from a lot of people I know, it's not so much the collecting, it's the finding. Once they've found the stuff and identified it, it usually gets put in a drawer.
Right.
It's the finding. It's that. For all those anglers out there who remember that the float bobbing, the indication that there's a bite on the line. When you get that signal and you move around it and you think, yeah, this is a good signal, and you're hoping this will be the one that, you know, really excites you. And it doesn't matter if it's a button. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know,
and though, you can't take the fish home with you, and we can take the finds home with us.
you know, here in the United States, something that I just recently seen that really kind of, I have found probably thousands of wheat pennies. You know, wheat pennies went into, I don't even know. They've just ended up in piles when I found them, and I could really care less. That's maybe horrible, but you know, I recently seen somebody post a wheat penny from the late 19 teens, and they went and along with that post, they explained what was going on in that year. And it's like, wow, I've never looked at it like that. Yeah, you know, I found thousands of them, and I could care less to really find one. But when you put it in perspective, what was going on in the country and the world on that date, that's it. You know, it's more interesting to me. And, you know, I'm sure, John, you're probably the same way. I'm sure you found some stuff worth money and valuable over the years. I can say my most valuable artifacts, for the most part, mean way less to me than some really simple things that tell more of a personal story.
Well, I agree with you. Sure.
Well, I mean, for example, I found a 1916D Mercury dime, and I actually sold it. It's the only thing I've ever sold, and the reason I sold it was just another Mercury dime. But it was being that it was a 1916D made it worth several $1,000s.
Really?
And, yes, and to me it was just another Mercury dime. And so I sold it and put money into my equipment and stuff. I didn't need the money. I just, it was almost a burden. And I knew somebody would appreciate it more than me, so I sold it. But, it just didn't mean much to me. It was a coin. Probably thousands of people held it over the years. The only thing that made it special was the date and the made in Denver. I've got tons of Mercury dimes to look at. It was actually an easy sell for me. I've never looked back and thought, I wish I wouldn't have sold that. But I have stuff that probably has absolutely zero value that I cherish. There's not enough, you don't have enough money to buy it from me. I would never let it go. I know where I found it and who owned it and what it must have meant to them. You know what I mean? So, those things I cherish, but that coin just meant nothing,
No, I can understand that. I can understand that. Yeah. But luckily or unluckily, I've never sold anything I found. Probably because I've never found anything worth selling. But no. I mean, one always hopes. I mean, if you come into this hobby, when people say to me, "I want to take up the hobby," what do you suggest I do? Well, the first thing I tell them not to do is don't buy a brand new machine, because if you like the hobby, you will continue and get a better machine. But if you don't like the hobby, then that's going to end up under the stairs, never used again. So shop around, try and pick up a second-hand machine, because once you've found your 600th ring pull tab, then you'll decide then whether or not the hobby's for you. So therefore, and do you know that down in the southeast of our country, around about where Britain used to have its ancient capital, around Colchester, apparently somebody worked out that there's that many old second-hand machines stuck under stairs or in garages that have never been used once they've been bought. And therefore people, and I say to people, don't go out spending a fortune, because if you don't like the hobby, you haven't lost a hobby. You haven't lost a lot of money. So...
I'm sorry, I'm reading in the chat, John. I apologize. But I do have a question, and I'm going to tell everybody in chat, I have been listening to John so intently that I've really not kept up with chat tonight, and I apologize if I missed some questions. But let me see, I lost it for a second. Craig Hammer asked, "What's your most cherished find?"
Craig Hamer?
Yes.
My friend.
Oh, that's one of Laura's friends. Sorry, yeah, that's interesting. Craig Hamer. So sorry, Mike. What was the question again?
What's your most cherished find?
Well, to be honest with you, my most cherished find is I found an absolutely mint condition Charles the First shilling, and it's absolutely mint. The reason why it's so special to me, I found it at what was really a 17th century sledging run for children. Now, I don't suppose a child would have lost it, because it would have obviously meant a fortune in those days. But when I found it, I couldn't find it, if you know what I mean. I dug this hole, but I dug this hole so carefully that when, of course, this was long before probes, and I was using an old Arado 120. Dave will know that back in the day, the Arado was the machine to have. And I dug this hole and I couldn't find it. And then I realised it wasn't in the hole, it was up the side of the hole. And when it came out, it was as though it was made yesterday. And I still show people this. I still show people, his hair's perfect, his beard's perfect. And to think that a few years later, they chopped his head off. But, it's a reminder of what he used to look like. Now,
Amazing.
I've just had Laura hand me written a question. Talk about lady detectorists. Now, I have a theory about lady detectorists. I have a theory that lady detectorists...
Whoa, be careful, John. You're scaring me with the idea of a theory.
No, they're sometimes a lot better than blokes.
Right.
Because quite simply, they've got more patience than we have.
I agree with you, absolutely.
And to be honest with you, we've got some lovely ladies in our club. And one in particular, a lady, she was out with us one Sunday. and we were detecting on this field. The farmer had cleared an old brook, an old brook stray, and he'd scooped up all and chucked it on the land. And she was detecting, came across what looked like, well, to me, a Bronze Age spear. But she'd found it in 2 parts. And she said to me, John, what do you think this is? I said, Jackie, that's a Bronze Age spear. That's wonderful, really wonderful. And she was really pleased, and she carried on detecting. And another member came up to me and said, anybody found anything? I said, well, Jackie's just had a wonderful, wonderful spearhead in 2 parts. So he went over, and he only found the tip of the spear itself. So she'd found 2 parts, and he'd found the third.
Wow.
And he so kindly gave her the third part. Now, that rests in Coventry Museum, the Herbert Museum in Coventry. But my only problem with this is that when they took it off her, and she obviously donated it to them, they didn't put a little note to say found by a detectorist or found by Jackie so and so. And that to me is a great shame, because if people are willing to donate stuff to museums and not claim any money for them, then surely the museums have a right to say this was found by a detectorist, a generous detectorist who didn't want anything for it, but is willing to show you, the public, what can be found. Right. So, I've got a lot of time for lady detectorists. In fact, because quite honestly, they brighten up a dig, because if you're going out with all men, sometimes it can be a little bit competitive. But ladies don't tend to be competitive. They tend to find stuff. You don't have to be competitive.
Yeah, they don't need to be competitive. They just do it. I do Monday night, I've got a separate co-host from Tuesday night, the podcast here in the United States. And Monday night is Gypsy Jules. And she just recently become sponsored by Garrett. And she's been doing it as long as me. And it's really funny because I love the technical side of it. I love talking metal detectors. And now and then she'll just start talking about a metal detector, and she'll go into the technical side of it. And like, I'm taking notes. This woman's smart, man, and she is a heck of a detectorist. She's, I don't want to make it sound weird. She's very attractive, and I've told her this. She doesn't look like somebody, and this is horrible to say, to judge somebody on look. She doesn't look like somebody that would get their hands dirty. And not only will she get her hands dirty, she gets in the water with poisonous snakes. She just does it all. And I love that. I have another friend in Washington State. She's a tiny little petite thing. And I call her Pigpen. And it's because she models part-time. She's very beautiful, I love her intelligence. I mean, just I have better conversations with her than anybody else I know. Just crazy intelligent. And every picture she's metal detecting, and she posts a picture, she's got mud on her face or, on her forehead. She doesn't care. She just doesn't. And I love that. I have so much respect for that. And I want to lead into this. Before this conversation even started, I seen your daughter, Laura, posting about one of her hammered coins and this and that. And I was going to ask you, would you be offended if we asked her to come on the show sometime?
No, I'll just mention it to her now. Mike's saying, would you like to come on the show sometime and talk about some of your finds and about metal detecting itself?
Maybe.
Did she say maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
I'll have to...
In fact, if you saw Laura after she's been out on a session with us detecting, she's the epitome of the mud lady. She gets covered in mud, absolutely, but she loves it. She absolutely loves it.
That's awesome.
And it's nice. It's nice to get grubby occasionally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure if you asked her nicely, she'd love to come on.
Well, you know what we'll do, John, is we'll send Luke her way, and Luke will talk her right into it, won't he?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we've been on quite a while. Is there anything else we need to cover, discuss here? I sure
There's
don't want...
absolutely loads, but obviously we're running late, and I think we probably need to maybe not just get Laura to come on, but get John to come on again in the future at some point and continue the conversation.
I'd love to.
That would be great, John. We'd really appreciate it. I apologize being an American. I didn't know all much about the NCMD.
I thought you were just apologizing for being American.
Well, that too. I do apologize for being American, but I'll be honest with you. I like coming into the shows not knowing a lot. I like to learn as well, and of course I could do a lot of research beforehand, but I kind of like to learn on the go. And although I did have a little bit of a idea of what you were about, I had no idea how significant you guys were and your personal involvement in it and everything. So absolutely amazing. And of course we would love to have you on again. I'm gonna tell Luke he's got to get a hold of Laura, because then it's he'll do it. He'll sell her on it one way or another, and we'll get Laura on the show to talk some metal detecting.
Great.
It's been an absolute pleasure this evening, John. I myself have learned a lot about the NCMD, a lot more than I knew, and I know listeners will have done exactly the same. Obviously, this podcast is available for people to go back to whenever they want to, or to download and listen to whenever they want to. So, we will be at the magazine putting that out for people to. I so want people to listen to this show, because there's so much information already before obviously going into promotion, to promote stuff and to the encouragements and other things. There's so much for people to learn already, and we do point everybody in the NCMD's direction already. I'm personally and as a magazine, and we'll continue to do that. So all I can do is thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thanks. Thank you.
Real quick,
Go on.
just before we end this, John, where can they find out more information? And one more time, can you tell us the website and everything?
It's www.midfed.co.uk. If they want to join through the Midlands Federation, it's the National Council through the Midlands Federation, they'll find an application form on there, and we'll be more than happy. And we'll return their cards to them within 72 hours.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Is there anything else you want to put out there, any social media or anything before we go?
Well, we're hoping that once again we'll resurrect our charity rally. I'm in talks with Rotary. Do you have Rotary in the States?
No,
No. Yeah. Well, Rotary is an organisation over here that raises money. A charitable organisation raises money for various causes. Rotary find me the land, and then I do the rest of the organising. And then last year, normally we make about £3,000 per year for various charities. In fact, we don't choose the charity. The president of the Rotary for that year, he chooses the charity, and then we raise the money for it. So, nice. Over the years, I think we've raised between £90,000 and £100,000, and that's over the year. That's in the Midlands Federation, that is. So,
that's fantastic.
I've got a good team around me. Really good team. Me and Laura.
That's fantastic.
I've got one last question as well, John. I do apologise. Where I live in Congleton, am I classed as Northwest or Midlands?
Now I think that's a difficult one, because you're on the cusp, aren't you?
I certainly am. I work in the Midlands.
Do you? Oh, right.
I work here for JCB, yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, down the A5 then, yes.
Yeah.
Any land around there, go, Dave?
It's Roster, where I work, the headquarters, and it was a Roman village at one point, a Roman outlet. So, I have got fingers in a few pies.
No, to answer your first question, I suspect you are probably Northwest. In fact, the Chester exhibition, which used to be held annually, always fell within the remit of the Northwest, didn't it?
Yeah.
So Chester, Congleton, we're not that far away, are we?
I'm about 45 minutes drive, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, that doesn't stop. I'm more than happy to accept you as a member of the... I certainly am. But, no, but I'm not quite sure where you lie. But then again, my area extends from Peterborough in the east to Redditch in the west to where are we going? We're going to Staffordshire in the north, down to below Oxford, down to Luton in the south. So it's quite a big geographical area because we're right in the middle. We're right in the Midlands. So, but we will take anybody: stray dogs, gypsies, anybody.
I'll find a stray dog and I'll bring him to you.
Okay.
Stray dogs and gypsies. I like that.
Right.
That's awesome.
Anyway, nice talking to you guys.
Absolutely.
And you, John, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Dave, you still there?
I'm still here.
All right. I'm ready to call it a day. I'm excited. That was a really good show. I didn't know much about it, and I think that's why I love this show so much. I've learned so much, and we've got to talk to so many great people, and I really appreciate you, buddy. You're awesome, and I don't want to say on
Luke,
air.
As you know, me and Luke, in the conversations that we have off air, we generally bring up the NCMD and it's what it does, and obviously it is a pleasure for you tonight to learn it about it firsthand instead of by me and Luke, who couldn't tell you in any way like John has tonight.
I gotta say, I just pulled up the screen for the chat, and Kimberly said Women's Monthly Magazine metal detectors. I think it should happen. I think women. I'm sorry, we're getting off subject here. Women have in this hobby have such a rough time here in the United States. You have so many of them, that old way of thinking, and I see women get beat up and not physically, but treated different because they metal detect and looked down upon, and Kimberly, I think the women of the world who metal detect should band together. I do. It's something I've talked about before, and I have loads of respect. I feel sorry for so many of them. They get just kind of beat on, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I would love to see the women of this hobby band together and stick together and
I've met so many people when I've organised rallies, when I've been to events and such like, and obviously Digger Dawn, first to mind, wonderful. Jackie Smith, absolutely brilliant woman. And then there's like in the group Tempest that I chair, we got Lisa Mallam and Debs Tansley. I call Debs Tansley Mum. We get on that well. I call her Mum. And they know what they're doing. It's not just a man thing. They know exactly what they're doing. There's no. They can identify things quite easily, as good as anybody else. They enjoy doing it. And I mean, when one of the rallies we held, it was a big one for the a big explosion and fire that killed some people not from very far from where I live, and Debs turns up the morning of the big event. There's a good 50-60 people there, and she stayed up till very, very late the next night and got up even earlier the next morning because she'd baked a cake with a metal detectorist on it for the rally. And absolutely fantastic. They put so much effort into it. Even Dawn and Jackie with the metal detecting videos on YouTube, they put so much effort into it. It's to be commended.
I want to make a quick comment. Girls Rock. Scott said Girls Rock is okay. Someone should, I think, start a new one. Is what he's trying to say. I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouths here, and I certainly don't want to cause any issues or anything. But I think what I suspect happened. I think she went at that thinking exactly what I just said, uniting the women. And I think what happened is she found out there's a lot more to it. And here's what I'm getting at. I used to work with mostly women. I actually worked for the federal government and accounting. And what I found was it was really an eye-opener. You look at social media and stuff, and it's girl power and us women need to stick together in general. But what I found working with women, and it really shocked me, is how much women tend to hate each other and want to fight and bicker. And I'm sorry, I hope I'm not causing issues here or upsetting anybody, but I suspect that's what Kimmy Price ran into when she tried to do that. And my God, stick together. You're the minority, and there's so many men out there in this hobby that are jerks. I hate to say it. You know, they've been detecting forever. There weren't women in the hobby, or very few, and they went with their husbands. And now you have women really coming out and enjoying the history and metal detecting, and they're getting beat down. I mean, that's how I see it. God, Dave, should I just stop talking?
Yeah, best have Mike.
Yeah. Just forget the last few minutes. Mike wasn't talking. I've had some rum tonight. Let's just chalk it up to that.
My pleasure as always.
All right, let's end this crazy show. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Disregard the last few minutes. Let's just forget that ever happened. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.